Welcome, folks. This is Acid Roots, and we're going to talk about a movie review, which is a Marvel movie, and that is X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Now, really, when I saw this, I actually did not see this just 5 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, but I saw it a couple weeks ago, back in January, and I also watched all three of them in the trilogy, the ones from the 2000s decade, and I did like this movie enough to say that this is worth checking out. I'm trying to review movies on my channel that have replayable abilities beyond just watching it the one time. So you think when you make a purchase, you go out and get that 2015, 2016 movie, and then you realize it's collecting dust. I'm trying to get you past that, and this is definitely a series of movies that work extremely well. So the X-Men movies follow a certain storyline, and back in the year 2000, the whole idea of war concepts and a bunch of fighting was relatively new. I mean, I think movies like Lord of the Rings and those sorts kind of did it pretty well, but the thing was that this was one of the first Marvel movies besides Blade. So the first one came out in summer 2000, and then they were on an every 3 year basis, and really, these had a different type of attention. I like the Spider-Man movies, but these were always right next door, and I haven't paid attention to them until just 1 month ago. So the thing was completely forgot about them. Thing is these are I want to say that they're just about really debatable classics, just because the storylines in them handles X-Men extremely well. Like, Hugh Jackman is very likable. Halle Berry is likable. I didn't have a problem with James Marsden. I'm trying to think of her name. The woman that played Jean Grey, Famke Janssen, Rebecca Romaine, Ian McKellen. All these folks really handled their roles well. And the part about it that really works is the fact that you get to watch. At the time back in 2000, it was something different to see Wolverine in action. So that was, I mean, obviously, today we've got Ant-Man, we've got Thor, we've got Hellboy, but it was different actually seeing some of these reactions, and it held strong because most of the time the third movie in the series is usually where they flop. You think about it and it just doesn't hold strong, but this movie did well. So we're going to talk about that. I keep looking, but I don't have notes. I actually have it on the computer. So what this movie is about is basically what's going on is the humans are sick of the mutants, and it's time to take action. They want to do something about it. In the first two movies, they kind of cover this. They're wanting something to change, but the mutants are here, and they've got their own spot where they live in different places, and they've had enough. It's time to cause it to be an end, and a cure comes out. They find something that can be a cure, and now basically the humans, the regular people, are pitting them. If you don't want to be cured, you're our enemy. So that's the basis of this movie. Magneto is someone who does not like this, and it causes a bunch of different rifts within this movie. In addition to that, Jean Grey, who died, if you've seen the second one, she does not make it, and the character Phoenix is here, and she's very destructive. She actually does some pretty vile things in the movie, and that's what you're looking at. So there is fight scenes in this, and I do like the action pace more so. Sometimes in PG-13 movies, the action is kind of wishy-washy, but I didn't feel that this time. So, but why is it appealing? That is what leads me to this next part, is it handles superheroes and that sort of concept extremely well. Really, it doesn't feel like Rebecca Romaine is a poster girl for the series. I think, it's actually, were we to interview her, she probably actually did not have a problem doing the role. Whereas, if it would have been 10 years prior to 2006, some people would have thought that that was very foreign. I think a lot of folks will say that about, women in Marvel comics and that sort of thing, but it brings it to the table, and it's not just like, X-Men is one of those kind of like Batman where you can do that. It just has the appeal. The storyline is good, and you're going to be able to actually look forward to it. If you watch all three movies at once, I think it's going to enhance the effect because you get to see the overall picture. So you definitely want to do that. And furthermore, the best part is to actually know your history with X-Men. To me, when I did this, I didn't know X-Men from anything, and so I just jumped right into it. But now you can actually appreciate it more if you know some of the references that this stuff comes from. So it works both ways, but the movies are, just good stuff here. Why you'll like it, the villains kind of win in this, which is something that doesn't always happen. Sometimes, the second one in the trilogy will be where the the darker things win, but it really is up until the very end, and there's some heroes that wind up dying in this movie. So there is death, and that sort of thing happens. So I enjoyed this. I mean, some of the characters there was one that I didn't want to die, and one complaint that I have is that there wasn't enough screen time for every single person. Iceman is pretty young, and a few of the other characters are just younger, so Wolverine and Storm are like the two main characters, and it would have been nice to have like a third and possibly fourth one. Other than that, everything was fine. So the replayable moments are when Magneto and Professor X meet at Jean Grey's house, when she retreats and she goes back to her home, and they both meet to see her. That's a pretty good moment right there. That's rewindable. And also when Magneto lifts the bridge near the end of the movie, that's another one. Lots of moments I think you're going to like. Once again, I watched this about 2 weeks ago, so I didn't feel like watching it again just to do this review, but really this is a lot of good stuff in this film. So I'm thinking I will probably wind up watching this movie again this year, and possibly more than that. I'm hoping that I like it that much, but this is definitely a movie that you need to see and possibly own.